All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. It is a couple minutes after 10, so I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. My name is Jacqueline Pitts, and I am the Communications Director here at the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. And again, I want to welcome everybody to this incredible event that our team is putting on today. So just to give you all a little background for those of you who haven't joined us for some of the other webinars in this series, the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce started the Workforce Center a couple of years ago because we really saw the disconnect that exists between education and employers. We saw that employers needed people for certain positions and they weren't getting the people they needed with the skills. And so really the Workforce Center has stood in that gap, and we've really done a great job of making sure that people are trained with the skills that employers need and connecting those two once those people are ready for their careers. And then throughout that work some more, we came up with the idea to start the opioid response team. And we ended up getting these two incredible ladies that you're going to hear from today on board with us to really help employers as the entire state struggles with the opioid epidemic. We see it across the state. There's loss of productivity and revenue and things. And not only that, it just affects every single one of us in some way or another. And so having Ashley and Sonia, who you will be hearing from today, on board has been a huge benefit to employers across the state and continues to be, especially now as we've started the Kentucky Comeback campaign through the Kentucky Chamber as well. The Kentucky Comeback campaign is in partnership with the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and we're running a statewide campaign to help transform Kentucky's approach to addiction and corrections. We would love to have you guys involved in that. Please visit kentuckycomeback.com, which is now up and ready for you to use. We'll talk about it throughout the presentation today, and I will pressure you to join the network because you guys are the exact advocates we need. What we're trying to do with the Kentucky Comeback campaign is make some significant changes throughout the state with the way employers deal with addiction and recovery, as well as legislation. And so we really need your voices in this fight. You'll hear a lot today about the resources we have on the site and that Sonia and Ashley provide through our programs as well as a lot of other things. So I am not going to talk for a whole lot longer because I know you guys are here to hear from Sonia and Ashley. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. This has been a great webinar series so far, and we're excited for you guys to hear today about Are You Okay? So I'm going to turn it over to Sonia and Ashley.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That was a great welcome and start to the presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping before we start. Our presentations are very engaging, so we want to continue to do that. So if you would like to talk to us or if we ask a question, please unmute yourself, or you can use the chat box. So we'll be watching the chat box and monitoring that as well. Also, if you click on the participant bar at the bottom, you can also see a nonverbal taskbar that you can use that we'll be watching as well. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Sonia Osman. I am one of the business liaisons in the Kentucky Chamber Workforce Center. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration with 16 years of experience in HR, working in the construction, manufacturing, and retail industries. I currently serve as the president of the Four Rivers SHRM chapter in Paducah. I also serve on the Kentucky State SHRM Council, and I also have just received, which was very humbling for me, the 2020 Law Hannah Spirit Award. So with all that, I'll kick it over to Ashley, let her introduce herself.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm glad that everybody's here. I am Ashley McCarty, the other business liaison, Sonia's counterpart. I'm just so excited about today. This is a very important topic. Just a little background about me in case you missed the first couple webinars. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I was a pharmaceutical sales representative for about 8 years. I was a top performer. I was number 5 out of 10,000. Then I had a couple surgeries with an accompanying prescription of opioids, and I was addicted before I knew it. So my performance started to decline as a pharmaceutical sales representative, and I eventually lost my career, moved on. The disease progressed and I started using methamphetamines. And then I started living in my car and using the bathroom in a bucket. Soon after that, I went to jail, went to a rehab, but the first one didn't work. I ran from it and was on the run. And so got picked back up, went back to jail, went to another treatment center. By the grace of God, I was court ordered to another treatment center where I stayed a year. And then after that, I became a counselor and a case manager and a certified peer support specialist for addiction recovery care, where I worked for 4 years. And then this position came open with the chamber. And as you'll see in today's presentation is pretty much why I had such a great passion to do this, to educate employers. It goes along with my story with the title, the Are You Okay? Sonia, did you want to say anything else before I got into it?
No, I just wanted to mention to the group that there's a very inspiring story behind the title of this presentation, and you'll hear that throughout this session. So just remember, are you okay, and what that's going to mean by the end of the session.
So the reason we talk about mental health along with substance use disorder is because about 50% of the time they're co-occurring. So if I ask each of you on here, and you don't have to answer this one, we do ask you questions and sometimes want you to put in chat, but just think about it in your head. If I ask you each to describe someone with depression and what that looked like, what they looked like, what would you say? What's in your mind? What are you thinking? Sad, someone crying, empty. Those are all symptoms. They're all symptoms, but they're also a stereotype because facial expressions have absolutely nothing to do with depression or a mental illness. You can't see a mental illness like you can see a broken bone. And there's no one face to mental illness, and it's oftentimes invisible. So you cannot look at someone and tell that they have a mental illness. The face of a mental health disorder can be deceptive, hidden behind, as you see in these pictures, big smiles, wide eyes, cheery looks, and forced in place to avoid deception, or to avoid someone from knowing that they're struggling. From the outside looking in, people fall for the rehearsed look that everything is great, everything's wonderful, everything's going okay, I'm good, I'm great. And that's what you see in these pictures. Unfortunately, 40% of individuals get treatment for a mental health disorder or mental illness. But unfortunately, the sad part is 60% do not. That's exactly what that means. If 40% do, then 60% are not. Now, this is a picture of mental illness that is untreated along with co-occurring disorder of substance use disorder. Many times people self-medicate to alleviate emotional pain. So it's not just physical pain, but it's emotional pain, which can lead to an addiction. And you can see this individual could only wear a mask for so long, and she never felt whole. She never felt like she belonged, and she felt bent until one day she was broken. And it was for only so long she could fight to get through each day and to get rid of the thoughts of wanting to die. So many individuals are pushed by their pain to join others, about 250,000 people each year, to commit suicide. But there are suicide survivors. So there are individuals that survive that. And this was a struggle for me to get through today, but I'm just very, very proud to say that I am one of those suicide survivors. Those pictures were of me. And oftentimes you see the smiles and the cheeriness and things like that, but you don't know what's hiding on the inside, because that's why individuals do smile and do keep that face on, so that no one knows that they're struggling. Now, I'm in recovery for mental illness or for mental health disorder, but that doesn't mean every day's great. And it doesn't mean I'm recovered. It means I'm in recovery from both substance use disorder and mental health. And right now I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose, because the The reason I am a suicide survivor is because God wasn't done with me yet. He wanted me to share my story and share with you guys my struggle with addiction, my struggle with mental illness. And I don't know how many times I've heard individuals say, you don't look like you have a mental illness, or you don't look like you suffer from depression. And I may have no outward signs of the condition, but that doesn't make it any less real. And that's exactly why we have to start the conversation about mental illness and mental health disorders. We have to openly talk about it, break the barriers, and fight the stigma. It may not be preventable, but I promise you it's treatable. And the key thing to remember is a mental illness is not someone's identity.
So let's talk about mental health in the workplace. As you can see from Ashley's, very emotional. You don't know what people are doing next to you. They may be, like she said, great on the outside, but screaming on the inside. And nearly 1 in 5 U.S. adults ages 18 or older reported a mental illness in 2016. That is 44.7 million people. So, and now during this pandemic, we know that there was an uptick. So as coworkers, as individuals that are with this population, we really, really need to take heed to this. We need to know the signs, we need to know the symptoms, we need to know the indicators. So we're asking you just to, as we go through this presentation, these statistics, how can you use this in your workplace? How can you use this in your personal life? So by addressing mental health issues in the workplace, employers can reduce healthcare costs for your businesses and employees. And I found this stat, and it said that combining your mental health, your medical and your behavioral healthcare services together, the United States can save over $37.6 to $67.8 billion annually. So let's think about that for a minute. And if you're an HR individual on here, HR professional, you should discuss this with your benefit administrator and see how that's going to hit the bottom line of your organization.
So only 11% of employees discussed a recent mental health problem with their line manager. Why do you think so few discuss a recent mental health problem with their manager? Why are there so few that discuss that? You can put it in the chat or unmute yourself, but why do you think that percentage is so low? Why are people not talking about it? Fear of losing job, okay? Shame, fear of losing job, afraid of being looked at differently, embarrassed. Yes, those are all reasons. Stigma, that's what I was getting ready to say. Because of stigma. There's so much stigma. And those, like I said, 40% of individuals get treatment for mental illness or mental health disorder. But that 60%, one of the number one reasons why they don't get treatment is due to stigma. So it's a major, major problem. And then 76% of line managers believe that they're responsible for employee well-being, but only 22% have received training. So why do you think that 76% of line managers believe they're responsible for their employees' well-being? Why do you guys think that is? Do you guys feel that way in these situations? Do we feel responsible? You can put it in the chat or wherever. No one thinks mental illness is real like a physical illness. That is so true. That's like what I said earlier. You can't see it like a broken bone. You can't see that. And so a lot of people disregard it. And that's very, very sad. But why do you guys think that line managers feel responsible for their employees? Okay. Nicole said, I feel responsible because they are our employees and they depend on us. Yes. Yes. You should treat your employees like family. I agree, Suzanne. Thank you. Yes, that's very good. Exactly, because they treat them like family, because they work beside these people every single day. But I just wanted you guys to know that when we talk about the title of this presentation, the Are You Okay? This was my problem because I told you I suffer from co-occurring substance use disorder and mental health. I didn't feel like I could go to my manager. Why? Because there was not a culture that reduced stigma surrounding mental illness or substance use disorder. That culture was not in place, and individuals are not going to come forward if that culture is not in place. Um, I was struggling with substance use disorder and then went on a business trip to Las Vegas, and I tried to commit suicide. And the EMS came in, rolled me out through the Bellagio Hotel on a stretcher, pouring charcoal down my throat, trying to revive me and bring me back. I was in and out, and then they took me to the hospital, and then I went to the psych ward where I stayed 2 weeks. This is the point. No one within my organization ever asked me the simple legal question, are you okay? Obviously, I am not. I just tried to take my own life. I tried to kill myself. No one came to the hospital. No one came to the psych ward. No one called. I was expected to check myself out of the psych ward, get on a plane, fly back to Kentucky, and go to work the next Monday. And that's exactly what I did. But then soon after that, I was let go. But we have to have a culture where these individuals feel comfortable coming forward and talking to their managers about this.
So you've seen that 22% of managers receive training, while 49% of line managers would appreciate basic training in common mental health conditions. And so that's what we do here. We train the supervisors up to C-suites so that they understand what this condition is and how to have those dialogues, or even begin to dialogue those conversations. Some managers are uncomfortable talking about that. But I assure you, if you were trained and understood the back part of that, and through this presentation, it would give you a little bit more confidence, a little bit more comfort, and knowing that you could see, if you've seen a red flag come up with one of your star players or even any of your employees, doesn't have to be a star player. You could go up and ask them, are you okay? And you could be prepared on what to do after that, what direction you needed to send them, or what resources you needed to talk to them about.
I wanted to add that it said 22% don't receive training. And that's what I wanted to say about the organization that I worked for. I don't blame them. Now that I work in this with this mental health and substance use disorder, I see that they just didn't know the conversation do's and don'ts. They didn't know what to say, if anything. I mean, here they had an individual on a business trip try to commit suicide. Nobody knew what to say. It was swept under the rug and it wasn't talked about. Even individuals that I worked very, very closely with, it was never mentioned. Everybody turned their head to it because nobody knew what they could say or what they shouldn't say. And I just wanted to add that. So that's why we have these trainings, so that we can talk about the conversation do's and don'ts and things like that.
Agreed with you, Tiffany, on your comment in the chat box. The more information, because at times we don't know what we don't know. And what we don't know, we can't fix, or we can't help, or we can't assist. So I appreciate your comment on that, to help them with their direct reports. The more communication and training, the better. Absolutely.
So what are some signs that a team member may be experiencing a mental health issue? So continuous changes to physical functioning and or appearance. Lots of times when you're struggling with a mental illness or a mental health disorder, and maybe you're on medication, maybe your medication's not working, maybe you've been without your medication, things like that, or maybe you're not treated at all. your physical functioning and your appearance go downhill. Most individuals have a lack of interest. That's what I call it. If I ever feel that way, it's a lack of interest in day-to-day activities or in anything in general, especially work. Just a lack of interest in wanting to do anything. So of course you don't want to get up and get ready and get dressed and put on makeup if you're a woman or whatever. It just doesn't matter because you just don't feel like it. And then sustained changes to cognitive processes. It's like a fog. I mean, can you imagine how hard it is to go to work when you're in a fog and when your cognitive processes are not in order and you can't think straight and you're consumed with depression or anxiety or thoughts that you don't want to have? It's very, very hard to work. And constant changes to social interaction, just the way you interact with people. Maybe, for example, you're an outgoing person and you like being around people, and now this team member, this individual is isolating. Maybe they don't go around anyone, they don't have conversation anymore. Social interaction is just different than the norm. And then inappropriate behavior, that's different with every mental illness, every mental health disorder. It just depends on which one we're talking about. It could be inappropriate behavior. Could be, say you're bipolar. Bipolar is manic and depressive. It's two opposite ends of the spectrum. So say inappropriate behavior, if you're manic, could be spending lots of money or acting risky or things like that. So there's just behavior that's different with every mental health disorder. And then frequent absences or reduced work engagement. So I told you the individual doesn't want to get up. They don't want to get ready. They don't want to get dressed. They're in a fog. They don't have correct cognitive processes. They want to isolate. They want to be by themselves. They're having inappropriate behavior. Of course, they're going to have frequent absences or reduced work engagement. Of course, that's something that's going to be going on.
So what should a manager do if they suspect one of their employees are experiencing mental health? First of all, they should perform a due diligence before approaching the team member. And what we mean by that, in the HR world, we do a due diligence on everything, investigations, complaints. So look at past behavior, look at the past records. Have you had conversations before? What did those conversations entail? Were those conversations resolved, or is this an ongoing problem that there was never a solution? Like Ashley said, everything just kept sweeping under the rug because the culture was not conducive to having these conversations or dialoguing what was going on with her. Encourage communication among your employees about anything. First of all, as we all know, the culture has to be promoted. The culture needs to have the sense of having confidence to be able to talk to someone, and first of all, to go to someone. I think that's the real challenge in the whole scheme of things is, can I trust them? Will this be confident? Will they just not talk to anyone else about it? Confidentiality is a huge thing. And then consider reasonable workplace adjustments, safe spaces so that they can unwind, telehealth so that maybe they can go through a session with a counselor or a therapist at lunch hour, maybe an additional break so that they can kind of collect themselves and get back to what they were doing. I mean, there's various adjustments that are out there. I've been reading and researching. Companies are doing really innovative things around mental health. And it's very cool that we're able to talk about it now and bring it to the forefront, and that everybody is getting to the point where they're comfortable enough to open up those dialogues.
I was going to add with the communication, this is what I always say. You should have unashamed conversation. That's what should be allowed, unashamed conversation. And that's what we should strive for. So signs and symptoms, looking at them a little bit more. So worry and fear that okay, first, let me say this. You may look at this and you say, well, I have worry, I have fear, or sometimes I have low energy, or sometimes my mood is kind of like a roller coaster. Okay, the point here is these are, as you see where it says worry and fear disrupts daily life. It's to the point where this is disruptive. You're obsessive about it, worry and fear. And then you've got the excessive use of alcohol, tobacco, or drugs. Like I said earlier, that's exactly what I did. I would self-medicate to numb myself, to alleviate emotional pain. And it would alleviate it, it would suppress it, but then when I didn't use, it would come back tenfold. So all it did was suppress it. It didn't get rid of it. But difficult interacting, suicidal thoughts, behaviors, changes in sleep patterns, inability to function, and low energy. I said earlier, like a lack of interest. They just have a lack of interest in things that they used to love doing. Mood and behavioral changes, uncontrollable emotions. You're happy, you're sad, you're angry, you're mad. It's a roller coaster. And then sometimes appetite or weight change can also be one. And depression interferes with a person's ability to complete physical tasks about 20% of the time and reduces cognitive performance about 35% of the time. So if you have an individual that's struggling with depression, physical tasks are reduced or interfered with 20% of the time, and then cognitive 35% of the time. So of course, if you have an employee that has depression, they're struggling at work when it comes to physical and the thinking, because these are some high percentages. And I promise you, speaking from experience, depression will just take you over. It will take over every capability you think you have. It will take it over, and you will not be able to accomplish anything when someone is suffering from depression or major depression.
So work affects mental health. 61% of workers say that their productivity was affected by their mental health, and then 37% of workers say that their work environment contributed to their symptoms. So why do you think this? Look at these percentages, and these are very high in the sense of employee engagement, promoting mental health, substance use disorder, smashing the stigma in your workplace. Why do you think these percentages are so high? What could be causing these percentages to be high? You can chat, you can put it in the chat box, you can unmute, talk, however you want to, but what are you guys thinking? Or have you seen it in your workplace? Are these signs here? And are you dealing with employees that are dealing with this in the workplace? Anxiety, stress in general, pandemic, yes.
I agree with that, stress in general with the pandemic, because I think there has been a lot more of that unashamed conversation, a lot more people talking about mental health or mental illness or mental health disorders or anxiety or depression. And there's been a lot more talk about it since this pandemic, because people were ripped out of the norm, of going to work. And now people are isolating in their homes. And now people are coming out of their homes after they've been there for months and going back to the place of business. So yeah, it's really affecting individuals. And then it's high expectations, fear of stigma, losing their job during these difficult economic times. And work is just one more thing.
Yeah, unreasonable and high expectations. I think sometimes we do that to ourselves. And then that causes burnout and stress within our workplace. High expectations are, if you set them more than normal and you don't reach them, then at that point, you're back to where you started. There's another one, difficulty handling a negative feedback as well. We've wired ourselves not to understand that that's just constructive and that's really just helping us. To us, it's just another thing that's bringing us down in the workplace. And so if we look at all of those combined together, the stress of it all really, really affects how we conduct our work, how we act at work, and how we're going to continue to longevity there. I think if you enjoy what you do and you find positivity in it each and every day, I think it keeps you going. Comments, additional stress with children being at home trying to do schoolwork, agreed. 15-year streamlining processes, becoming more efficient, but never receiving a good job. All of those things, definitely.
Anthony, I'm one of those people. I believe in recognition as well. I believe that's very, very positive in a work environment. So I agree that recognition is important. So how do we support mental health at work? How do we do that?
So we're going to go through some action steps, and we're going to give you some best practices and some tips. So first one is provide mental health self-assessment tools. What this includes is wellness assessment, online health assessments, stress assessments, just to kind of gauge where your employees are. And these are all anonymous. So you just kind of get metrics to see what type of programs that you can offer through your organization. And the majority of the time it comes through your benefit administrator. So they just kind of give you those metrics and you work from them. Health insurance at a no or low out-of-pocket costs for mental health medications and counseling. And you can determine those from those metrics, like what programs you put in place and what that looks like as you design your programs. And then employers can use the data. Just like I said, those data utilization reports are so important when it comes to these types of offerings and options to your employees. I know the Chamber does an excellent job with our programs. I really enjoy all of the things that they do, because there's things like turn off your TV, have your family time, do stretching, get up in the morning, drink enough water. It's so, like, to me, I enjoy those things. I look forward to those things. And it helps me to keep a positive mind and positive spirit as I go to work each and every day.
So another action step, distribute materials such as brochures, flyers, videos to all employees regarding the signs and the symptoms of poor mental health and opportunities for treatment. So here's a one-sheeter or a flyer that is hosted on the Kentucky Comeback website under the Employer Resource Guide, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But you can go on there and your organization or place of business can actually download these flyers. They're in PDF form, and this one is maintaining mental wellness while working from home. And we'll show you some of those tips or pointers in just a little bit that's going to be on this flyer that you can distribute, or you can email out to employees, or you can hang up in the break room or by the water fountain. But we've created these for you to use, so please utilize them.
Host seminars and workshops like this one to address mental health and stress management techniques within your workplace. Your managers and up to your C-suites, if they're not on these calls or participating in these open series sessions, invite us into your organizations to do these trainings with those individuals, so that they know what those best practices are, what those questions they can ask, like, are you okay? How can we help? Those are very legal. And you're going to get a lot of information from those two questions. You may get more information than you want, but really be a good listener, not judgmental, have compassion and kindness, and have some resources or some solutions on hand when that comes up in those conversations. Quiet spaces and social support networks, we talked about that. Can you offer that for them to unwind, or just to step back to collect their thoughts? And then training, just like document. That's my favorite words, is training. Because the more you know, the more you can offer. And again, if you don't know, you don't know, you can't offer, you can't fix. There's no solutions.
So employers should establish a culture that doesn't stigmatize mental illness and encourages employees to seek help if they need it. This is what I said earlier. I promise you, no one is going to come forward and seek help for a mental illness, mental health disorder, substance use disorder, if that culture is not in place, if there is not a recovery friendly culture, if there is not unashamed conversation, if it's swept underground, people are not going to come forward. So we have to work on our culture. I've got a business that in 2020 their focus was on mental health and substance use disorder at every monthly meeting. One time they all wore red to show support for those that have struggled with substance use disorder. They had a speaker come in and talk about mental illness or mental health disorders. They had me come in and tell my testimony about substance use disorder. So places of business are doing this now. They are trying to establish a culture that doesn't stigmatize mental illness. And I just want to emphasize that as an individual, whether it's an employee or whether it's you don't have to suffer or struggle alone, and you can live well with a mental health disorder or a mental illness. And like I say it again, employers should have unashamed conversation, and it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help. And this is not a personal failure, and it's not someone's identity. So creating a stigma-free culture, we've talked about that. So how do you do that? How do you create that culture?
Adam, I like your comment in the chat box. Thank you so much. This is so true. Just stop having a checkbox sheet just to say you've done it. Yes, be real. I mean, this is real stuff. This is people's lives. And yeah, you don't need some kind of checklist to say, I've done this. Thanks for bringing that to the forefront. Mental health in the workplace, creating a stigma-free culture. How do we do that? First of all, see the whole person. Their mental health condition does not define who they are. And as soon as we all realize that, I think that we are able to manage and communicate and dialogue much, much better with an individual, because we're not focusing on what's happening with them. We're focusing on what is that solution to the problem, or what are they struggling with and how can we help? Offer support. Don't be afraid to, do you need to comment?
Me?
Did you comment?
No, I just, did you read this in the chat? It's just, I just wanted you to read it. It said, my former employer told a coworker when she was crying that she didn't have time for this and rolled her eyes. That really impacted that coworker and prevented her from wanting to come forward again when she was feeling overwhelmed.
Case in point right there. Case in point.
Yeah. I mean, to an individual that's struggling, that is like a devastating comment. I had someone one time very close to me when I was struggling very badly with depression. I said, I am so overwhelmed. I just feel so depressed. And their comment was, well, the first thing you need to do is quit feeling sorry for yourself. Depression is real, and it has nothing to do with feeling sorry for yourself. We have to check Sonia will talk about it. We have to mind our words, and we have to challenge misconceptions. That's exactly what she's going to talk about. You know, telling someone that, you don't know how that impacts somebody.
And that's the case in point. Just Candace, thanks for bringing that up, because the next thing is offer support. Don't be afraid to reach out if you think someone is struggling. If you are uncomfortable with reaching out, I would find someone that is comfortable to reach out, to help, to offer that support, to give those resources and tools to that person. Like Ashley said, it is treatable. We see it every day, individuals that are dealing with this, that have treatment, that are helping them to get through the day and to get through their jobs and to make better employees. Challenge misconceptions. This one, if everybody would just do this, I think our workplaces would be such better environments. The cultures would definitely change. if you hear someone talking about substance use disorder, mental health in a derogatory way, be that example, stand up and talk, and you start that conversation. Be the voice for the person who doesn't have a voice, that who is suffering with this silently, because they are a lot of them out there. We told you in the beginning, millions of people are dealing with this on a daily basis. Some can talk about it, some are very comfortable talking about it, and some talk about it to help others, but a majority of them are not talking about it due to the stigma, due to the weakness that they think that they're going to find or feel, due to the promotion that they may be missing because employers may think that they're not ready for that. That's not true. And then last but not least, mind your words. Watch what you say. You don't know who's in the next room. You don't know who's coming around the corner. You may be talking to a person who's dealing with that, and you don't even know that. So watch the words that you use when you're having conversations around these topics.
I was reading Anthony's comment. He said there are word wounds that are still difficult to this day to overcome. And I'm glad to have had friends to be an outlet when the employer wouldn't see it. I've never heard that there are word wounds though. I've never heard that before, Anthony. I like that because I think I have some word wounds too. So why we need to end the stigma that surrounds mental illness. Fear of rejection and discrimination can delay the journey to recovery. So I've told you, it's most of them are treatable. There are medications. There is behavioral therapy. There is counseling. There's psychiatrists, psychologists. There is help. But fear of rejection and discrimination delays someone from getting in recovery. That's just so sad. And so there it says mental health conditions are treatable, but less than a third of employees who need treatment get the help they need. Again, that's very, very sad because untreated mental illness or mental health disorder can be very consuming and overwhelming, and it is a struggle. But once an individual gets into treatment, gets into recovery, they're amazing thinkers, they're amazing employees, they're amazing CEOs and business leaders, and they're just amazing people. So mental health problems are the leading cause of disability across the United States. So we got 63 people on here right now. I know I am not the only individual that struggles with a mental illness or a mental health disorder that's on this call. It's just the odds we're looking at them, 1 in 5. So, or there might even be individuals that have not been diagnosed and are not receiving treatment and are not in recovery. But it is pretty common, and most are treatable.
There's a question in the chat box. How can you heal word wounds, especially when you say them out of ignorance?
So, in other words, how can you backtrack to the person you said it to? Oh man, I don't know about that. The individual is the one that has to. Yeah, I would begin with
Acknowledge it. Yes, absolutely.
That's very true. That does mean a lot more when someone says something and then they acknowledge, hey, I shouldn't have said that, or maybe that was the wrong way to say this. That does help. But the individual themselves has to learn to forgive, and forgiveness is for yourself. It's not for another individual. So it only helps them when they forgive you for something that you said. And but we do have to be so careful about those word wounds. I know a lot of times I'll forgive someone for something they said, and then I'll take it right back. And so I didn't really let go of it, and I didn't really forgive. But we have to move past that, and we have to know that we are not what others say.
And I would add to that too, Ashley, is
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, Tiffany said she agrees. Acknowledgement and forgiveness are critical.
And I just want to add a little bit to that. I think once you acknowledge and you understand what you have done, I think you should take that and you should go forward with it. When you hear other folks saying it or talking about it, teach them, tell them that there's other words that can be used, and be that leader, be that example, for those who are struggling and don't have a voice. That's our motto, Ashley and ours motto. We are the voice for those who can't speak. And we're gonna be here. We want everybody to hear us loud and clear of what we're doing. This is a passion that we do each and every day. We both enjoy our work, but we are going to speak for those who can't speak. And we're going to make a difference in their lives. We're going to change the fact that they can't talk to someone. And we want them to understand that they can, and how they can have that comfort level and trust level to go forward with dialogue in those conversations.
Like Sonia said, I mean, for me personally, I know I have to be that voice because I want to be that voice, because I don't want people to struggle like I did. And I don't want people to feel the feelings that I felt and still feel sometimes. I want to educate about it. And I want to educate that you are not your illness. You are not your disease, that you shouldn't be defined by that. But I want to be that voice, so that others don't have to struggle. And this is exactly the topic we're talking about right now. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk about suicide. It's uncomfortable to talk about. Sure. I mean, I'm not proud of it. I have tried to commit suicide. I said in the beginning, I'm a suicide survivor. And I'm proud of that, because God wasn't finished with me yet. And I'm fulfilling my purpose right here, right now, in this moment, by sharing this with you guys. So here was a staggering statistic to me. 4.19%, or this makes it a little bit more in perspective, 10.3 million adults have serious thoughts of suicide in the United States. Serious thoughts. As an individual who's tried to commit suicide before, you think you are the only person that is feeling these feelings and thinking these thoughts. But obviously, if there's 10.3 million adults that are doing the same thing, you're not alone. You're not alone. But how many of these individuals feel comfortable coming forward and saying, I'm having thoughts? I know that's something I didn't talk about. I would leave little hints or little clues or things like that I was maybe having thoughts about it. But individuals just don't come out and say, hey, I'm feeling this way. But 10.3 million is a lot of people in the United States to be having these serious thoughts of suicide. So looking at employment and suicide, the age-adjusted suicide rate increases when the economy is in recession and more people are unemployed, and it falls when the economy is booming and more people have jobs. So there's a direct correlation with employment and suicide. If there's lots of unemployment, then the rate of suicide goes up. If the economy is booming and everybody's got jobs and everybody's doing well, then the suicide goes down. That's a statistic that we found, and I thought it was very staggering. And then we find as the country unemployment rate, the unemployment rate increases by 1%, the opioid death rate increases 3.6%. And the ER visit rate for opioid overdoses increases 0.7%. So why am I talking about opioids here and suicide and employment and things like that? So I'm talking because we talk about substance use disorder. We talk about opioids. So this is showing that when the unemployment rate increases 1%, opioid death rate increases 3.6%, because most of the time, or not most of the time, a lot of the time, some of the time, individuals who try and commit suicide, me as one of them, use opioids as a way to commit suicide. That's one of the number one drugs of abuse that can be abused, that individuals use to self-inflict suicide on themselves. So this is why some of the opioid death rate numbers are increasing because individuals are trying to commit suicide during this time. So, tips to keep your mental health in check. I told you we had the flyer talking about tips for mental health. These are exactly what's going to be on the flyer that you can share with your organization through email or hanging it up, or it's a PDF. You can print it out, things like that. So let's get into that. We've got something in the chat though. Anthony says, I was fortunate that God led me to the thought that there are too many news stories that include, and no one knew they were struggling. Mm-hmm. So I have probably limited some advancement opportunities by talking more openly about struggling, but I didn't want to explode. We have to find a means of sharing.
Excellent.
Thank you for sharing that, Anthony. Thank you for sharing that. I do agree that when you share, when you talk about something, when you have that unashamed conversation, it takes the power out of your thoughts. Does anyone else ever feel that way? Like if you're feeling overwhelmed or struggling with fear or worry or depression, if you talk about it with someone, if you have someone you can open up to, then it takes the power out of those thoughts. So thank you for that comment.
Excellent. So the first one is keeping physically fit. Eat healthy, well-balanced meals, exercise daily, maintain a regular sleep pattern, and maintain routines and set goals. This is so true. Ashley and our team, we created this at the request of the chamber for our employees who were going to be at home. And so this kind of rang true with Ashley and I, because we've been traveling across the state up until COVID, where our schedules just came to a halting screech. And I remember being on the phone with her the first week. And I told her, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I just don't know, because I was traveling 3,000 to 4,000 miles a month across the state, doing our job, doing our work, carrying our mission out, educating, making awareness. And we had to sit for a moment. I mean, Ashley and I FaceTime a lot each and every day. That's how we do a lot of our work. That's how we do a lot of preparing for our presentations. But we had to pivot. We had to pivot our daily tasks. We had to pivot our scheduling. But never once did I stop changing my routine or changing my goals. Got up every day, got ready, set my schedule, FaceTime with Ashley. We laughed, we cried, we carried on. We did whatever we had to do. And now it's just, a normal day without the travel. We have reached so many people through this series that it has just been amazing at the work that has come out of this. We're creating new content, we're creating new slide decks, we are educating more, we're making things aware to those who weren't making it aware previously. So, just keep doing what you're doing, because I knew if I changed one inkling of my routine, that I felt as though things would spiral in that direction. And I wasn't ready for that. I really wanted to continue to do what we were doing, because we had a huge project ahead of us that we were about to embark on.
So next one, stay connected. Oops, I hit it too fast there. Stay connected. Isolation can intensify mental health. It is vital to keep all lines of communication open to family, friends, and social networking contacts. And might I add, those family, friends, and social networking contacts that you need to keep that line of communication open with should be positive people in your life. Because I feel as if you should stay connected to the positive people, and during this time, maybe rid yourself of the negatives, but stay around positive people, stay connected. When it says quarantine or isolate, they mean physical distancing. They don't mean self-isolation, not isolation from people that you love and you care about that are positive in your life. And then value and love yourself. Treat yourself with kindness and respect, and avoid self-criticism. Make time for your hobbies, favorite projects, or broaden your horizons. This one is very, very hard for me. I remember whenever when I went to jail and then I went to treatment, I struggled. I struggled with loving myself and valuing myself because of the things I had done to myself and to other individuals. I couldn't even look in the mirror at myself. But in treatment, they had me do affirmations, daily affirmations every day. Look myself in the mirror and say, my past does not define me, or I am beautiful, or I have value, or people love me. And at first I thought it was crazy. I just thought that I'm not going to do that. There's no point in doing that, but I had to because I didn't want to get kicked out of treatment. But believe it or not, after I started saying these things to myself, I started to believe them, and I started to see the value that I added to life, and I started to love myself. So you just have to accept you for you and learn to have self respect and a positive self image, unconditional love for yourself, and learn to forgive yourself. That's one of the affirmations that I would always say is I forgive myself. And that's very, very hard to do, especially some of the things that I've done. But I have to forgive myself in order to move on, in order to love myself, because I promise you, you can't give love to anyone else unless you love yourself first.
Keep positive. Maintain a sense of hope and positive thinking. Smile and see the humor in life, which we did a lot and we still do. Research shows that laughter can boost your immune system, ease pain, relax in your body, and reduce stress. Absolutely. I sat through a session about being positive through this whole pandemic, through everything that we're doing. And there were some really good suggestions like journaling. If you've never done journaling, such a good stress reliever, positive things, positive vibes going through that. Cultivate an attitude for gratitude. Ashley sent me a book during this time, and every day I have to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I'm like so thankful that she did that, because I look at that and I'm like, what am I thankful for every day? And so I write those down and I look back on it to see, what from the beginning to now, what is going on. There's a thing, I see a couple of leadership Kentucky Bright leaders with us. We have a duty to include these issues in a forward progress because we are aware of them. Yes, definitely. And the last one, ask for help. Again, that's the most important. Seek help, ask for help, open communication, dialogue, those conversations. If you're not comfortable, again, there are people in your organization that is. I would say if someone's not ready to speak, I would just encourage them and let them know that you're there when they are ready to speak, because eventually they will have to open up for treatment, for just trying to get it off your chest, like Ashley said, to take that power away from themselves and to be able to take that burden off of their shoulders.
So, where can you guys find more information about mental health disorders, mental health, mental illness, substance use disorder? If you've been on our presentations before, you've seen us talk about the Kentucky Comeback Employer Resource Guide. So this is where all these things are hosted, whether it be trainings that we're going to offer or that staying mentally well while working from home flyer. It's hosted on here as well. So we encourage you guys to go to the Kentucky Comeback website, go to the Employer Resource Guide. This took Sonia and myself and our team about 3 months. We created this from scratch. We created all the content, and it's basically how I look at it is you as an employer or an HR specialist, to find everything, it would take you 3 or 4 months. Do you have that time to research and find everything regarding mental health or substance use disorder in regards to policies and procedures in the workplace? No, of course you don't. So we did the work for you. And that's exactly what this Employer Resource Guide has in it. So Sonia will tell you more about the content.
So as I mentioned earlier before, when our travel ceased, we had to figure out, what our daily tasks were going to be. And so this was born, the Employee Resource Guide was born. So we had to figure out what that was going to look like. So all of the research that we had gathered from speaking to employers with the challenges and barriers that they face each and every day with their workforce gaps, we combined that. We had resources and tools. However, this employee resource guide was going to be robust. This was going to be a really robust tool to put in our toolbox. And so we wanted to make it a one-stop shop. So we created the outline first, and would be the content. And we had all of these subtopics there, and then there's actual information under these topics. So we set up a war page, and that was our guideline that we follow through. We were 2 weeks done before it was actually, the deadline was here. So we were very excited about that. We were able to do some additional tweaks and add additional information. The content here, the culture, we talk about culture, what that looks like. We created an inventory assessment form, which allows organizations to examine what's going on with their culture. It will give them opportunities that they can work on. Those forms can be submitted to Ashley and I that we can review and then call you and set up a time to discuss. We talk about background and drug screens, guidelines, do's and don'ts, best practices, retention. We have some of our EK-SIP partners on the line with us. We are so very thankful for them because they help find employment for those that are in recovery. And the Department of Corrections, they are also our partner who helps those that are recently out of incarceration find stable employment. Their maps are on that resource guide. So if you look at it for your region, you can have that contact person. Policies and procedures, I'll talk about that shortly. Education, we have all types of education. The one-sheeters, we have links in there that you can just click on, which will automatically send you to a website that will give you additional tools that you can use. Training, we have a one-page allocated just for our training. It has all the training that we're doing with employers. It has this training on it. There's a form at the bottom of that page that you can submit if you want it in your organization. So I encourage you to go there and sign up and have us to come into your organization to do this series package. Benefits, we talk about the utilization reports. We talk about the trending things. We talk about do's and don'ts, best practices with your benefit administrator, what you should be looking for and when designing those packages. And then additional resources comes from SAMHSA, NAMI, FAHI. There's different partners that we have there, and those will be under those additional resources with links to get to their information.
So I'll just breeze through this because I've talked about this. This is the educational flyers, stigma, substance use disorder, mental health, employee engagement. Go to the website, download them, email them out, hang them in the break room, hang them by the water fountain, things like that. Just get them out in your organization because they're for you.
And let's talk about the policies and procedures. This was a fun project for me, being an HR geek that I am. So I looked at various policies and procedures and took verbiage and information from each and every one to compile the ones that we have here. And what we've done is we made them personalized and customized for you. So where the box is, you can see there's a sample one for the attendance policy. The box, you can put your logo there, and then the blue box you can customize with the name of your organization. So if you're into doing updating your employee handbook or making a handbook, creating one, I would highly encourage you to use these policies and procedures. You just go in, tailor them to what your organization has. They have been approved by legal. However, I do encourage you to have your legal team to review them as well, especially if you're going to put your stuff in it. We also created a Who's Hiring campaign I guess the second week after COVID. And what this campaign is it allows employers to post jobs on the website. So these are all the jobs across the state of Kentucky. I know I'm just going to guess, and I'm thinking it's going to be around 88,000, maybe high. Harper would know. She's our manager. And so we just continue to get 90,000. Whoo, I was close. Thanks, Harper. But they can post on this website all of their job opportunities. The report is updated every Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you can download it as well. We also created a second/fair chance employer from this campaign. So we have two who's hiring, the regular who's hiring, and then the second/fair chance hiring. And all of those are fair chance employers. So they offer opportunities to that population. And that one also is updated every Tuesdays and Thursdays. It can be
5,000 fair chance positions are posted on there, Harper said. That's
yes,
amazing.
exactly. And we also have a search engine called Heidi Hires on there. If you can see the little box with the unicorn, you type in a word in there and it will bring up everything that is applicable to that word. And it'll go across all the regions. So we have 4 regions that are included in these this campaign. So again, if you go in, you implement it, we'll get the job that you have submitted. We'll process it through, and it will be updated the next Tuesday or Thursday.
So, call to action, apply the resources. Please go to the website, join the network. As you can see here, this is what will pop up when you go to Kentucky Comeback. Join the network. Join Kentucky Comeback to join in the fight to improve criminal justice reform. Use the employer resource guide and then sign up so you can get updates and things like that. And we just want to affect, like it says here, the hearts, minds, and bottom lines of businesses for employers. So you can pull at heartstrings and touch people's minds. But the bottom line also, these individuals are amazing employees, whether they're struggling from a substance use disorder, now in recovery, or those that have been criminal justice involved, or whether those that are struggling with mental illness. When these individuals get in recovery, they're amazing employees, and there's statistics to back that up. They're in some of our presentations, but I just want you to keep that in mind when you're thinking about your culture as an organization. We have to destigmatize, mental illness, substance use disorder. We have to be recovery friendly, and we have to start talking about these things. We can't sweep them under the rug, because I promise you, when you sweep them under the rug and turn your head to it, it just increases the costs, the risk, and liabilities to your organization. So these things have to start being talked about. So please, your call to action is go to the Kentucky Comeback, sign up, join the network, look at the employer resource guide, utilize it. Don't just look at it, utilize it. And then if you want to have this training for your organization, fill out a form and contact Sonia or myself. And
the link is in the chat box for Kentucky Comeback, so you can just immediately click on it, and you'll be able to join the network.
And this is how you can contact us. We'll put our cell phone numbers in the chat box, because I like to use that number lots of times, because I always have that with me. Don't we always have our cell phone with us? So we'll put that in the chat box. And then questions and answers. Anybody have any questions, comments, criticism, anything like that? You can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself.
But before we do questions and answers, we have.
Oh, I forgot, Sonia. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We have a short poll that we would like for you to complete, and I'm going to put the link in there, so you can just click on it, and we'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes to get that completed, and then we'll come back for questions and answers.
I was going to say, please fill it out, you guys. It helps us so much. It helps us so much with our presenting, and so that we know what we need to work on, or things that you guys like. And thank you so much for all your comments. Thank you so much.
Yes, we've been getting really good feedback from our survey. So if you could continue that, that would be just awesome. It helps us to improve our next set of content or slide decks.
You guys a song while you're filling it out. One of my favorites, if I can find it. Oh no. Oh, here it is. There we go.
Okay.
No matter how hard I try, you keep pushing me aside, and I can't break through. There's no talking to you. It's so sad that you're leaving. It takes time to believe it. But after all is said and done, you're gonna be the lonely one. Oh, do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough now. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough now. What am I supposed to do? Sit around and wait for you? Well, I can't do that. There's no turning back. I need time to move on. I need love.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to
Question.
and comments, and let's hear from you guys in the chat, or unmute yourself. Any questions? Anything you want to know? We'll see if we have the answer.
Do you want to bring down the PowerPoint so we can see everybody?
Oh yeah, I can. Thank you. See that? That's why I keep you around.
Hi, Tiffany.
I just wanted to say thank you for this series, because I think the more, again, people get educated and have a chance to talk about this, it's a hard topic to talk about just in general, and struggle for companies and individuals. So I think taking that stigma off is huge. So thank you. Just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thank you. Oh, someone can't find the employee engagement? Which section is it in?
Retention. It's in the retention area.
It's in retention. I just like, to Tiffany's point, we have to start talking about this. We have to educate, whether it's employers or whether it's our friends or whether it's someone we work alongside or our counterparts, because I said it before, this mental illness or mental health disorder does not define the individual, or it should not define the individual. And it's serious. You can't see the pain. Like I said, like you can see like a broken bone or a cut finger or things like that. You can see those things. So people acknowledge them. But sometimes it's the things you can't see. Like, for example, just myself, I know for myself, I fight for my health every day in a way that most people don't understand. But I am not a victim. I'm a survivor. That's something that I like to point out. I am not a victim. I am a survivor. But I fight for it every day. And I have to not only fight for my mental health, but I have to fight for, my struggle with substance use disorder. I have to fight to stay in recovery. So we have to fight to be well.
Yeah, and don't be that person that, that pride may get in the way, because I think that sometimes that does happen. And we want everybody to think that everything is perfect on the forefront and in reality, when really it's not. And I know sometimes it's hard to speak about. Ashley and I have these discussions all the time because this is our work, and how we can be influencers and how we can show individuals the compassion and the kindness that we have when we're doing these, or when someone calls us. I mean, we have individuals that call us or talk to us after these sessions about what's going on with their family members or even themselves. So we just, we offer those resources and tools just to make aware and to educate. Again, as Tiffany said, the more education, the better it will be for you to communicate and open up those dialogues. It's so, so true.
Does anybody else have any comments, or would you like to say anything, or questions, anything like that? Oh, I know someone's got a burning desire. Know it. Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's see, we have one more, right, Sonia?
Yes, the last one, to disclose or not to disclose, and I think it's next week.
The 29th.
Yes, and we will discuss how substance use disorder and mental health are co-occurring. So we'll have lots of stats in there, some social media topics and things of that nature that we're going to talk about as well. And Harper, she's such a blessing to us. She put the registration link in the chat box. So if you have not registered for it, please register for it. And again, if your organization would like to have us come in and just do this, tailor it to your organization, please contact us. Go to the Employee Resource Guide training page and fill out that form and submit it to us. And we will definitely get you on that schedule because we are booking up.
Thank you guys so much. And just remember, before you overreact, before you say something to someone, think about it. You don't know what they're going through. You have no idea what someone else is going through or the thoughts that are going through their head. No excuses for bad behavior, but just be open a little to, you don't know what that individual is going through, and it probably has absolutely nothing to do with you. So Thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you on October 29th.
And we'll stay on in case someone wants to talk. So until the last person is gone, we will.
Yeah, we always stay on because some people want to stay and talk. But thank you guys.
Thanks, partners and teammates that are on here supporting us.
Yes, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey.
Wilson. Hi. Good to see you. Thanks for joining.
I've got to run to another meeting, but I just wanted to say that was great, y'all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for joining us.
I just adore you. You're so precious.
We hope we can see each other live soon. At some point.
Yes.
So have a great day and rest of the week.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. Bye. Sonia, there's a comment.
Oh, we have SHRM credits. We need to send that out. Yes.
Look at Jeff. Jeff's like,
Only because I'm recertifying in December. I'm like,
okay, I will send that out to you.
Stay on here for just a minute, and I'll go ahead and give them to you then. How's that?
well, if you want to email them out, that's okay
Is
too.
that okay?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine.
we can do that.
Okay.
All right, thanks guys. Sonia,
Thanks.
talk to you on Friday.
Yes,
Forward to it.
me too.
Bye.
Are these people just want to talk to us, or?
No, they just don't know it's over. Maybe John Cox there, or he might just be hanging out. I don't know.
Oh, is that our John Cox, you think?
I think so. I'd say we just go ahead and log off now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna end it.
Yes.
Oh, Felicia, yes,
Yes, we can.
you're welcome. Good.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Felicia. Thank you. Okay, I'm logging off.
Me too.
Okay.